Greetings, friend of karmic affinity. Perhaps as you began the journey of turning inward to seek peace, you felt discouraged at least once and exclaimed why your mind is so noisy. You sit down with the desire to find stillness, but instead, thousands of thoughts about the past, the future, work, and trivial worries rush in like a flood. You feel tired, helpless, and blame yourself for lacking the ability to meditate, or that you are doing something wrong. The reason we feel failure is that we carry a fundamental yet extremely common misunderstanding. We believe that meditation is synonymous with making the head completely empty, that we must force the mind to turn off all thoughts to reach a state of absolute flatness. But please breathe softly and let go of that burden of pressure right now. The truth is, meditation has never been a battle to compel the mind to stop functioning. As long as we are alive, the brain will still perform its natural function of producing thoughts, as naturally as the heart beats and the lungs breathe. When you try to steel yourself to command the mind to be silent, you are actually creating a new noise, a more intense internal conflict. Because even the desire to stop thinking is, in itself, a thought. You cannot use thought to extinguish thought, just as you cannot use oil to extinguish fire. So if it is not about stopping, how should we face that waterfall of consciousness to find true serenity? The art of observing the mind, the awakened gardener. Instead of trying to build a dam to block the river or violently extinguish the noises in the head, the Buddha taught us a path of wisdom that is much gentler. The practice of contemplation of the mind, or Cittanupassana. The core secret here does not lie in controlling the content of the thoughts, but resides entirely in your attitude toward their appearance. Imagine you are sitting on the bank of a river of consciousness that is flowing continuously. Thoughts, whether wholesome or unwholesome, whether peaceful or anxious, are like leaves and dry branches floating on that water. Your task is not to jump into the water to retrieve the leaves, nor to strain yourself to block the flow. Your sole and sacred task is to sit still on the bank, keeping your eyes clear to recognize what is passing before you. When an intense anger flares up because of a displeasing word, instead of being swept away by it, to react or tormenting yourself over why you are so resentful, you only need to step back and silently note that, anger is present in me. When a craving or desire arises, you also do not need to panic or deny it. Simply name it as greed is present. You need to understand deeply that the problem never lies in having bad or good thoughts, as that is a natural biological reaction of the brain. The real problem only arises when you do not know what you are thinking, allowing those streams of thought to drag you along like a sleepwalker in broad daylight, causing you to say and do things that bring regret. To help you better visualize the miraculous transformative power of this pure observation, consider your mind as a hyperactive and naughty child. Have you noticed that when a child plays alone in a room without adult supervision, they tend to be disruptive, rummage through things, and mess everything up? But if the parents simply open the door, walk in, sit in a corner, and quietly observe with a kind gaze without scolding or threatening, the child will automatically become well-behaved again. They will self-adjust their behavior and play in a more orderly fashion simply because they are conscious of being seen. Your mind operates exactly like that child. Lacking the light of awareness, it will run wildly from the past to the future and cause chaos. But when you light the lamp of mindfulness, the mere presence of knowing will cause wandering thoughts to automatically settle, becoming more compliant and orderly than ever. That is the miracle of observation. You do not need the effort of suppression. You only need to be present and see, and every storm in the heart will automatically enter its orbit of peace, the natural mechanism of calming the mind. When you shift from the state of a tense gatekeeper wanting to block every stranger to the state of a calm roadside observer, you will touch the most natural mechanism for quieting the mind. My dear friend, the secret lies in the fact that we do not need to try to control or interfere with the flow of thoughts. Instead, we only need to perform one single act: recognition. When a thought arises, you fully know that it is being born. When it lingers a bit, you know it is present. And when it vanishes, you know that it is passing away. You look at the joys, angers, loves, and sorrows in your heart, exactly as if you were looking at external objects, completely separated from your true nature. The shift from doing something to handle thoughts to merely seeing them is a spiritual leap. When your mind clearly sees the law of arising and passing of all phenomena, it will automatically let go of the habit of clinging. It realizes that nothing is worth chasing, nothing is worth holding on to, because everything is just fragile water bubbles. It is this deep understanding that causes the mind to automatically calm down. The silence now is not the result of suppression, but the stillness of a lake that has ceased to be stirred by the winds of attachment. That is the core spirit of liberation in original meditation, recognizing the wild nature of consciousness. My dear friend, as the light of observation begins to shine inward, you might be startled to realize a naked truth. That is, our mind, when left free, tends to drift toward the barren lands of negativity. It likes to gnaw on old grudges, immerse itself in cravings and desires, or creep into the dark alleys of everyday jealousy and resentment. But please do not rush to judge yourself as evil or sinful because of this. This is absolutely not your personal fault. It is simply the natural nature of an untrained mind, just as a garden left fallow will inevitably grow thick with weeds that overwhelm the fragrant flowers. That wildness is a part of the survival instinct that has existed for millions of years, and it needs patience to transform, not denial. The Buddha, with transcendent wisdom, deeply understood this operating mechanism. Therefore, he did not stop at advising us to be peaceful. He left behind a specific map of practice, a step-by-step roadmap to tame the wild beast in the mind. And the prerequisite to walk this path is the power of mindfulness that we have just cultivated. Once the lamp of awakening is lit, once you have identified the uninvited guests disturbing the house of your mind, this is the right moment for us to use the miraculous 5-step toolkit, helping to gently transform darkness into light and return the primordial clarity to the soul. 5 steps to transform negative thoughts. My dear friend, now that you are ready to face the garden of the mind, I offer you 5 golden keys to open 5 doors of liberation from afflictive thoughts. This is a sequential roadmap, going from gentle to strong, helping you flexibly adapt to every state of the mind. The first step is replacing with a wholesome idea. Imagine your mind is like a nail driven tightly into a wall. If that nail is a negative, rusty, and ugly thought, you cannot just stand there and hope it falls out on its own. The most effective way is to take a new, shiny, and beautiful nail, representing a wholesome thought, place it exactly on that spot, and drive it in hard to push the old nail out. In life, when anger rises because someone hurt you, do not let the mind slide down a revenge script. Immediately, proactively recall a good deed that person once did for you, or think of a peaceful memory between the two of you. If you cannot find a good point in them, direct the mind toward a virtuous deed you performed yourself, or think of a teacher you respect. This replacement is not avoidance, but the art of changing channels for the mind. You proactively light a candle so the darkness automatically recedes. When the peace of a wholesome idea appears, the darkness of resentment will have no place to stand. If the first step is not strong enough and negative thoughts still cling to you, move to the second step, contemplating the danger. At this point, you need to look directly at that thought and be honest with yourself about the price to pay. Ask yourself, if I continue to nurture this anger or immerse myself in this desire, what will be the consequence? The Buddha compared holding on to evil thoughts to a person dressed beautifully and cleanly, but hanging the carcass of a dead snake around their neck. No matter how glamorous the exterior, the stench and horror of the corpse will ruin everything. Anger or greed are the same. They are toxins, silently destroying your peace, health, and precious relationships. When you see through the danger and the immeasurable harm these thoughts bring to yourself and others, a healthy sense of fear, shame, will arise. It is the shudder of horror before that poison that will make your mind automatically let go of bad thoughts, like the reflex of pulling your hand back immediately when touching hot coals. However, there are times when thoughts become stubborn and hardened, even knowing it is harmful. The mind refuses to let go. At this point, use the third step, non-attention and ignoring. Treat those delusions the way you would treat a crying child throwing a tantrum for a gift. If you soothe, explain, or scold more, the child will cry louder to get attention. The best way is to ignore it. Turn your face away and continue your work with composure. In meditation, this means you drain the energy source nourishing the thought. Close your eyes and imagine that thought is just a passing cloud or a stranger walking by. You do not look after them, do not greet them, and do not invite them in. You return to the breath, to the work in progress, or to a sutra being chanted. When starved of attention, those thoughts will gradually get exhausted, become weak, and automatically vanish into thin air. If the battle is not yet over, we move to the fourth step, which is extremely subtle and deep, calming the mental formations. Imagine a person running for their life under the scorching sun. Suddenly, he asks himself why he must run so miserably. So he slows down. Then he stops. And finally, he sits down under a shady tree to rest. For streams of thought that are racing along, use gentleness to soften them. Observe where that thought comes from. Does it come from a fear of being hurt or an unmet need to be loved? Instead of judging, send it the energy of compassion and soothing. Tell your mind that, I know you are worried. It's okay. Just breathe. Just relax. When you loosen the tension of the body and mind, the speed of the thought stream will slow down. Aggression will give way to compliance, and the inner storm will gradually settle into gentle ripples. And finally, if all four steps above fail, and you are at risk of being submerged by negative thoughts or driven to do evil, the Buddha gives us the final weapon in the fifth step, using strength to subdue. This is a strong measure, like a wrestler using muscle power to crush a weaker opponent. Clench your teeth, press your tongue against the roof of the mouth, and use your strongest will to command the mind to stop immediately. You concentrate the entire energy of awareness to block that stream of thought, giving it no chance to continue. However, I must give you a sincere warning at this step. This is the method of suppression through mindfulness, and it should only be used as a final urgent solution when the gentler methods are ineffective. If you abuse it frequently without wisdom, it can cause inhibition and reverse tension for the inner self. Use it carefully like a high-dose antibiotic, used only to break the crisis, not for daily nourishment. These 5 steps are an invaluable treasure that, if skillfully applied, will make you the true master of your house of consciousness, no longer disturbed by uninvited guests of your inherent peace. Closing today's journey, I want to tell you sincerely, please do not expect instant miracle changes. Transforming the deep-seated habits of the consciousness is a persistent journey that requires patience and great love for oneself. Like a diligent gardener watering every day, even when flowers haven't bloomed, stay persistent in practicing these 5 steps in all everyday circumstances. Repetition is the secret to creating internal strength. Gradually, negative reactions will weaken to let composure take the throne. When the skill of observation becomes masterfully fluent, you will receive the most worthy reward, a soul that is completely free, leisurely, and no longer bound by any burden of delusion.